Okay, Governor, so you and I have been around for a little while, and we certainly have witnessed any number of what used to be called sex scandals that have derailed political careers, congressional careers, people who are running for president of the United States. I wonder, big picture, as you look at this, are we just in a very different point than we have ever been before? Do things like, I don't know, morality, ethics, play into these kinds of decisions anymore?
Well, Chris, I think in the Senate, they will play into their decisions. I mean, let me just point out that John Thune, who's really a traditionalist, he was not really the person that the Trump people wanted. They were really for Rick Scott. They did it kind of low key, but Thune was really not their guy. And my understanding is, and I've been told what the vote count was, that Scott got about 13 votes. So Thune was overwhelmingly elected. And John is a traditionalist. He's from South Dakota. I've known him for, I served in the House with him. And look, I think you're going to find out that the Senate is going to do their advise and consent. I think they're going to look at all these nominees, not just Gaetz, but all of them. I think they'll go to hearings for a number of them, and they'll let the nominee speak, and then they will let those who have concerns be able to speak as well. And I think it'll be a pretty normal process. I don't anticipate you're going to have these recess appointments. I don't believe the Senate is going to give up that prerogative. And so, that's been the tradition. Now, this is a different time. Can I interrupt
you for just a second, Governor? Yeah, because we just got some breaking news from our Hill team. Our team covering Donald Trump has spoken with a transition official. And they have given a more fulsome report than we have had in the past. They say not only has Donald Trump been making calls to Republican senators, he has been heavily working the phones on behalf of Matt Gaetz, that they knew that getting Gaetz approved would be an uphill battle, but that a full throttled effort would be engaged to continue to try to get him confirmed. Now, to your point, John Thune. I'm going to read directly from this. The transition team believes the worst case scenario for them is that Senator Thune, recently elected Senate Majority Leader for the new Congress, efforts a letter co-signed by other GOP senators disapproving of Gaetz' appointment. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance's visit to the Hill tomorrow is centered around lobbying support for Gaetz. Does that sound to you like something that John Thune might consider?
If I understand it correctly, Chris,
they think that he might effort a letter to be co-signed by other Republican senators disapproving of the appointment.
That wouldn't surprise me. And, I think the other thing is I think the senators are going to look for a way to create some independence, from Trump. And just listening to all that's going on, this is going to make it in some respects easier for senators to say, this is not the right person. This is not the right time. And I think it's going to go beyond Gaetz. I think there's going to be a lot of questions about the Secretary of Defense. There'll be some questions about Kennedy. There will be a process that will take place. So I would not be surprised if John Thune was saying, withdraw this and appoint somebody else so that the president would have an opportunity to do it. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. I do not believe at the end of the day that Gaetz will be confirmed. I just can't see that happening.
So it's really interesting also in this note, and I'm just finishing reading it now, Gaetz reportedly told Trump when Donald Trump called him to say, I want you to be my attorney general. Here's what Gaetz said. This whole thing is going to be an uphill battle. Trump told Gaetz it was one he wanted to fight. Why do you think? I mean, there are, of course, folks who have suggested that this is a president who feels he has been unfairly persecuted, prosecuted, both in civil and criminal court involving sexual misconduct and payoffs, that he believes perhaps that Matt Gaetz is being unfairly accused. But why would you, going into this presidency with so much possibility, right? So many opportunities, as every new president has, but in this case, a particular one because his party controls the House and the Senate, choose to fight a battle that he and the nominee knew was going to be extraordinarily difficult and involve some pretty uncomfortable conversations?
You know, I think there's a possibility that some people speculate that put him up and then makes the other ones look a little bit easier to get through. But it may be part of the fact that Donald Trump feels aggrieved by the system. And, you know, and he's going to say that I'm going to push somebody who I think has not been treated fairly. I don't know. But I think what people need to be sure of is that you're not going to have a rollover in the United States Senate for any of these people. Senators are people that have high regard for themselves. They have high regard for the institution. We've seen some melting away of the kind of things that we used to see in that institution. But I've got to tell you, senators they're just not people that are going to roll over and do whatever anybody else wants, including Donald Trump. Now, he's going to get, because he won the election, because he won the popular vote, because he did as well as he did, I mean, people are going to give him extra consideration. But at the end of the day, remember, senators have to go home and they have to stand on their votes and stand on what they've done. And I will tell you, in the next election cycle, 2026, isn't going to be like it was in 2024 for the Republican Senate. It will be tougher. So I think all these senators are going to be considering things. They're going to be looking out for themselves. And I think there will be a respect for Senate traditions, including the idea of recess appointments.
Former Ohio Governor John Kasich and former member of Congress. What were you, 15, 16, 17 years in Congress?
I was 18 years there. 18. And, you know, I used to go over to the Senate. And, you know, look, I had good relationships. I had to as I was, you know, negotiating the budget or being on defense. But there was always a sense that they always kind of thought of themselves as a little higher. And once in a while, they'd even admit it. But that's not bad. The advice and consent of the Senate is the place. It's the saucer of the hot cup of coffee. It's designed to slow things down. And by the way, Chris, thank God we're going to keep the filibuster. And that was a big issue. Kamala Harris talked about getting rid of the filibuster. No, you don't want to get rid of the filibuster because you don't want things to run rampant and things quickly to happen. So we covered a lot here today.
We did.